courtesy of a tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sankeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right. Houston, Harris County, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, with another tip from me. Talk, inspiration, and prayer. And I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, studio audience. In Houston, Harris County, all I can say is this. How about them Texans?
Right on.
I mean, I am telling you, this could be our year. I just love it. And you know what else? How about those Cougars? Holy cow. But you know what? We're going to talk a lot about that. But more importantly, I want to talk about some of the issues pertaining to what's going on in Washington and all the madness. And we have a candidate, Mr. Jarvis Johnson. Now, Jarvis, you're no stranger to Houston, Harris County, right? Everybody's known you for like decades. I'm not aging you or anything. I'm not aging you or anything. But people have known you for decades, right? Because you've been involved. You've been going back to council, all the things of the community in Austin. And now you're taking on the leap to go to Congress.
That's right.
Which is, of course, the new district, which is CD 29. We're going to talk all about that in just 1 second. But Jarvis, let me ask you this. What do you think about those Texans, man? I mean, what do you think? Come on.
Hey, man, I'm excited. But here's what I'm not going to do.
Good.
I'm not going to jinx it.
No,
because, brother, when we get comfortable and everything is going well, and then they whip out the Letterman's jacket. Remember that one year they pulled out Letterman's jacket? I was like, come on, man. And then we got beat in the first round. So, listen. I'm excited. I'm excited about the coach. I'm excited about what's happening with the team, but I'm not going to jinx it. They still need to push, work hard. It ain't over. We'll celebrate when we get to the Super Bowl and win it.
There you go. And, when your quarterback says, don't be talking smack to anybody. Don't be, he's like, hey, stay focused. Yeah. Stay focused.
We don't want to be the Cowboys.
I know, right?
We don't want to start being the Cowboys.
No, I understand. I remember one time the Cowboys, they were going to the playoffs, and right before the playoff game, there was Tony Romo in somewhere Acapulco or something with his girlfriend. I'm like, you fool. Why aren't you watching, tape and film of your opponent?
Right.
They said that Peyton Manning, that's all he did all the time, which is why he was so good. People said, oh, it's talent. No, it's not. He worked hard. Yeah, he worked hard.
It's talent plus, being a student of the game. You gotta put in the work physically and mentally, because they'll tell you, almost 90% of the game is mental.
That's right.
You got to have that mental capacity to be able to push through the controversies, push through the complaints, push through everybody's pointing the finger at you, and you got to still have that the bad play happened last play.
Yep.
The next play is going to be a good play. You got to have
that's right. You got to keep going.
Short-term memory on that stuff.
Well, I took my son and a bunch of his pals to the LSU U of H game. Of course, my son is LSU, and my wife went to the optometry school at U of H. And, of course, my nephew went to U of A, is at U of H, excuse me. And so there they were when the LSU got off to a 14-0 lead. They had the run back and all this stuff. And they were talking smack to this people right by us. And then all of a sudden, it all went quiet.
That's right.
It all went quiet. So that's why you can't celebrate till it's over.
Till it's over.
But let's go to a couple of quick things because, first of all, you were on council.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience on council.
Well, I got to city council when I was quite a young man.
Yeah, that was really your first taste of sort of elective office, right?
Well, absolutely. That was my first taste of elected office, but not being in the capacity of elected officials. My mother used to work for the late Congressman Mickey Leland. She ran, Kathy Whitmire's co-campaign manager for...
Pull the mic a little bit closer to you if you don't mind.
She was the co-campaign manager for Mark White. So my mother's always been involved in politics. And so I've always been involved in politics, whether I liked it or not. As a young kid, nobody likes licking that many stamps.
Yeah. Oh, believe me. I remember the day.
And knocking on that many doors for no reason that you don't even understand, being 19 years old. But, then starting to run my own nonprofit when I was 21 years of age at Texas Southern University, and then seeing the voicelessness of the people not feeling like they had any input in what was going on downtown, which is kind of what catapulted me to run for city council. And being in a body like that, where it's nonpartisan, where you just need to be able to negotiate on behalf of your community, but you got to have an understanding of what your community's needs are.
Now, and you were a district, right?
I was District B.
Okay, and so District B, did you just feel that, your constituents always like, I got to get this traffic light fixed, and I got to get this pothole done? I mean, was it so much different than at large?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right?
Because you have a constituency, right? So
and they turn to you because they know.
That's right, because they figure that you are my council member and I'm calling you, right? Even though there are 5 other members at that time. There are 5 other council members that are at large that you can call them too. But everybody defers to the council member.
And that was during Parker's administration?
White. Bill White, and then
part of Parker.
Yep.
I remember well.
2
now.
terms with White, 1 term with Parker.
Oh, tell us this. What was the difference in their styles?
Bill White was a very cerebral guy. Talked a whole lot.
Yeah.
He talked a whole lot, but kind of had his own methodology of doing things. And so it was really about how you're able to negotiate in an environment where you have a strong mayoral form of government. Right? They hold everything. And so being able to communicate with a mayor that holds all the cards is oftentimes can be difficult because that mayor has to then deal with everybody, every council member. And so you got to meet everybody's needs. But you have to, again, have a clear laid out plan as to what you're trying to do, how it's going to benefit the entire city, certainly as well as your own district. And then when it came to, Mayor Parker, kind of the same thing. It dealt with a lot of the same issues. I can't really say that their ways are different, which I'm sure they were, but I was only focused on District B and how I could get all of my project across the finish line.
Now, I've met your mom. She's a heck of a character. So let me ask you this. When you were, a young man, was she there? Son, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to, get going. The community, you got to get going. Was she the driving force for you?
Well, my grandmother was.
Your grandmother.
My grandfather, my grandmother, and those 2 were first, because my mother, worked in the community since she was a very young age. But it was always I was always around my grandmother because my mother would drop me off at my grandmother while she was out working or doing whatever. But my grandmother and my grandfather were really that driving force that would push me and make sure I was on the right path. While my mother and father were, they would kind of reiterate and give, that forceful backup. But at the end of the day, I'd always give credit because my grandfather was one of the founding members of the TMO, which is the Texas Metropolitan Organization. And so, being a part of that and watching him and as he was, coming up, I would hear the stories of how he used to go around the community and try to register people to vote during a time when voting was dangerous for the black community, but he still would put forth that effort to go out in the community and make sure that people understood voting was your power and you have to use your power. If you don't use it,
what kind of years were those? Were those the 50s, 60s?
Yeah, in the 50s.
50s, 60s,
based on the stories that that they would tell me about the work that that he was doing, that my grandmother's doing, because it was always, my grandmother's father founded the first black school in Opelousas, Louisiana, Felix Theory.
Wow.
And so it's always been kind of in my blood, But my mother then, as I got older, obviously my mother and my father were very instrumental in shaping me to be the man I am today. My mother gave me all of the talent of understanding what politics is, how to maneuver it, how to, kind of shape it. I don't want to use the word manipulate it, but when you think about politics, you have to oftentimes have to manipulate how you want your community to look and how you negotiate on behalf of your community. And, of course, my father, gave me the oratorical skills.
Yeah.
You know, the
You have very good communication skills. I've seen you in action. You're very good communication skills.
Thank you. My father was a radio personality. He was enlisted in the Radio Hall of Fame. I don't have his pipes. You know, he had a very deep
but your
voice,
pipes are pretty damn good.
Hey,
I don't know if I can say damn, but they're, you know what? Do me a favor. Are you ready?
Sure.
Say, Luke.
Luke.
I am your father.
Luke, I am your father.
There
That's
you
funny.
go. No, you sound no. You have a very distinct voice.
Thank you.
Which really gives you, and of course you're a tall, big man, so it gives you this incredible charisma and presence about you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
true.
appreciate
It's
that.
true.
And you got to use everything in politics,
That's right.
man. You got to use, you know, every gift that you got.
Yeah.
You know, and I oftentimes say, look, if it's the way I dress, if it's the way I talk, if it's the, you know, my planning, you know, every aspect has to be a part of the puzzle that, you know, so that way you can see the entire picture. So,
And reach people. The key is to reach people.
absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. So, where'd you go to high school?
I went to a high school called the Chinquapin School.
Oh, I know that school.
It was.
Is it still with us?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
I remember I forgot the couple, the man and the woman, they were married, that really founded that school.
Bob Moore.
Yeah, and great people.
Yep.
Great people. Yep. And I remember some friends of mine were some of the original donors and funders of that school, and I'm talking in the early 90s probably.
Yeah.
That is good. It's so that class, what's a graduating class there now? Do you recall?
It may
Like in the
be,
teens?
It may be up to 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah, in my class it was 11.
Yeah. No, it's a real intensive, because they really nurture you.
Yeah.
It's much more than just, going to school and learning books. It's fantastic.
Number one, it's a boarding school.
That's right.
It's a college prep boarding school. You go to school there during the week, and then on the weekends you come home. But it is very intense. And when I was there, it was kind of like military style. But one of the things that you learned early on was the motto. And the motto was quid pro quo. That's literally the motto. Today, people were like, quid pro quo is a bad thing. Yeah. But when you think about what Chinquapin was free. That's relatively right. To everyone, although it would cost, even back then in 80s and 90s, it would cost, $12,000-15,000 at that time, a year. But you would go to school for free. And so the motto was something for something. And so we would have to do all of the chores. We didn't have a custodial staff. We didn't we had a cook. That was it on the staff. But like the maintenance staff was the students. We cut the grass. We cleaned the classrooms. There was, if a pipe burst, the director, Bill Heinzling, would have to get out there and dig the hole, and we would be out there digging the hole.
Bill Heinzling, I knew him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of my good friends was Paul Teaton, and he was one of the big donors back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't mean to go off message here.
No, that's okay.
But let's go back. So I think that really teaches you wonderful values.
Yeah.
To really quid pro quo. I mean, in other words, giving back. You could say today, modern times, we just say, hey, give back. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's all about. And that kind of what shaped me again as a part of my life when I was running my own nonprofit, Phoenix Outreach Youth Center. It was truly about making sure that we were our brother's keeper. We would support and help one another. And so at 21 years of age, I'm running this nonprofit. I'm not getting paid. I'm just wanting to see that these children get a different life. Because I learned a long time ago that children will be what they see. And I realized that children in that part of Fifth Ward were not seeing the positive role models that they need to shape and emulate their lives after. They had all of the other examples, but they needed the positive ones. Even on television, the examples were not positive for them. And so, it's really about making sure that we brought people around them that they could see and say, I can be that one day. I can be a lawyer, engineer, doctor. But you can't just talk about it. You have to literally see it, be it. Because all the kids were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a veterinarian. I'm like, ew, you want to touch a dog, you got to put your finger in the dog's butt. And they be like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, you can't be a veterinarian. Like, we got to be real about this.
That's right.
So.
Well, all I know is, don't get me started, because when I think about Hollywood, and you think about, people of color, we're always the thieves. We're always the bad guys. We're always the, the drug dealers. I mean, it's like, holy cow, how come we can't be the hero?
Amen.
I mean, how come we can't be those things? So that
Because
always,
we ain't making the movie.
that's exactly right.
And then when we do make the movie, the people who are funding the movie are like, we don't know if that's gonna fly. That's not a good.
Yep.
Let's keep it real. And I'm like, why do we always got to keep it real? Like, show me some fantasy, show me some things. But I do know. And I remember as a kid growing, people were like, the Cosbys were not realistic, and I'm like, why? A black lawyer and a black doctor is not realistic. I'm like, what? My neighbor literally is a black lawyer, and his wife is the head of nursing at the hospital. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, my view is, I thought that was such a great show because it really, in my view, just showed that we're all really the same. No matter what color we are, no matter what socioeconomic, we all have family issues, and we laugh at each other, we cry with each other. I mean, that's what family's all about.
And our trauma does not have to be our entertainment. That's what they keep doing. They keep putting our trauma as entertainment and going like, that's not entertainment. We need to see different. We need to see better. We need to see more. I mean, I want to see the love stories. I want to see, the father and the mother in the household. I want to be able to see the child succeed without having to go through all of the pitfalls. It's just a movie.
That's right.
Let's make it, keep it light. But
and in my sphere, I want to see more African American Hispanic partners of the big banks and the CEO, the C-suite of the Fortune 500 companies, because you know what? We have good talent in our communities if we can just get the chance.
That's right.
We just need the chance. Going back for a second, you went to where for college again?
Texas Southern.
Texas Southern. And so when you were there at Texas Southern, did you ever think, you know what? I'm going to run for office. I just need to get my chops and...
Never. I've never been that person, and I tell people this all the time when young people come up to me and says, I want to be involved in politics, I want to run for office one day, and I'm like, yeah, go away. Because if you're thinking that you only want to run for office now at as a teenager or at 20 years old, you got to understand politics is not a one-trick. You can't be a one-trick pony. While you may be passionate about this issue, you have to understand that you have to represent, as a city council member, that 350,000, residents. And constituents. They have all different needs, different issues, so you can't just be a one-trick pony. You have to understand the needs of your community, and then as a state representative, you got, 600,000.
Right.
And then, now as a congressperson, you have 800,000. So you have to be more well-versed and understand, you have to follow before you can lead, because you don't even understanding what leading looks like because you've never done it, or you never even watched it before, and so many people want to get in office. And so even when I majored in political science my freshman year, and when I got there, I was like, I know all of this. I live this every day. Like, my mother had me in these political campaigns every single cycle, So I changed, my major and went from political science, and then I went into speech communication with an emphasis in interpersonal communication because I thought I wanted to be a psychologist, working with kids and things like that, and then learning just how to communicate. And it just all worked out, at the end of the day.
How wonderful. Well, let me go through. So actually, wait a moment. We have a quick caller already. Is there an Alex there? Alex, are you there?
Hi, Gilbert.
Alex, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, the tip from me, talk, inspiration, and prayer. And, of course, let me just remind everyone, you're welcome to call in anytime at 832-570-8075. We have Mr. Jarvis Johnson on the line. Of course, he's a candidate. We're going to get to it all for CD Congressional District number 29. What do you got for us?
I was wanting to ask Mr. Johnson, what has been the most fulfilling thing he's done so far in his career, as far as like with his constituents, or maybe legislation he's passed, or something that he's really proud of?
It's like asking me which one of my children I like the best. But there's so many different things that I've done in my career when it comes to not only my nonprofit, but as a city council member, being able to create the largest CIP, which is the capital improvement program that District B has ever seen,
Wow.
which brought the infrastructure that was so desperately needed, to being able to build the Deluxe Theater, which was a dilapidated building in the Fifth Ward community. And they wanted to turn it into some social service program. It was like, no, our community needs, cultural arts so that people want to drive into our community so it can be a destination site. And being able to build that building with federal funds and partnering with Texas Southern University too. My very first bill as a state legislator was to pass the law that put vocational ed back into school, because I realized that so many of the children that were graduating from high school, and I went to every last one of those graduations and I talked to them and I would say, what are you going to do? And a lot of them would be like, it's like, you don't know. It's like, but everybody else, the 15% said, oh, I'm going to college. You knew they were going into the military. So I realized not everybody's going into college, not everybody's going to the military, but everybody needs an opportunity to succeed and have, some type of pathway to having a fulfilling career. And I think vocation is just that. To being able to build the land bank, my bill that I created here in Houston to have the land bank in place that would stop much of the gentrification that you see is happening in our cities every single day, in our neighborhoods every single day, so that neighborhoods can continue to be who they are without the fear that, your grandmother is going to be priced out of her own home or taxed out of her own home, or when she passes, pass it on to the kids and they can't afford the back taxes that are owed on it. So there's so many different things that I'm very proud of, but I'll just leave those three and say you pick it.
Those are good. Those are good.
And there's so much more. I forget half the stuff that I do, man, and
that's
people
super
get
good.
on me. My mother told me one time, she came to me, she said, do you know how much money you've ever brought back to your district? And I said, I never thought about it. Maybe 600 million, because I knew I had put money in the infrastructure. And she said, you don't even know the half of what you do. $2.1 billion.
Wow.
And I said, where did you get this information? She said, my mother is the AI chat GBT queen now. I don't know what's going on, but she talks to chat. What did Jarvis Johnson bring back to the district? And it'll pull up. Jarvis Johnson has brought $2.1 billion back to his district.
Great.
And then she breaks it down, and then she starts comparing me to other elected officials. I'm like, all right, stop. But she's like, I just want everybody to know the work that you have done, because you don't talk about it enough. I'm like, you taught me just to do the work and move on, because there's always something next. But, if we sit around and celebrate every little small thing we do, we get bogged down and forget that we have to keep doing the work.
Or just let your work speak for itself.
There it is.
Alex, what else? You got a follow-up or anything there for our guest?
No, that was very informative. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for answering my question, and I'll be supporting your campaign and seeing how it goes from there.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. Look us up, JarvisJohnsonForUs.com, and that's the website. And there's a link where you can volunteer and be a part of the team. And we certainly need all of the supporters that we can get. We know we're going to run through this finish line and be victorious, but we can't do it without great people like yourself. So thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in, Alex. Let's go back to something, because the vocational schools, I'm a big fan of those, right? And I've toured a lot of these, some of the things like the building trades and all their schools. I've toured all those. What's interesting is I used to say to myself, one day we're going to see the day where it costs $100,000 a year to go to college. Well, that day is like now.
That day is now.
It's unbelievable. And I know a lot of the fine universities will, have a full ride for certain income levels. And then, of course, if you're at a high income level, you can afford it. But what's happening is so many people in the middle are just totally squeezed out, just squeezed out, because they're not in the zone where they can get a full ride, and they really aren't in the zone of where they can pay for the whole thing, and they're just getting squeezed out. It's just terrible. So that is why I believe that some of these vocational schooling and so forth are vital to give people a pathway. You come out, you immediately start work, you immediately are trained by someone, you immediately start health care benefits, pension benefits, you don't have any debt. I mean, really, it's a really interesting trade-off. And if these colleges don't watch out, they're going to price themselves out of enrollment.
You know,
that's what's going to happen.
I'm so glad you brought this up, and it blows my mind because I was thinking about this over the weekend. Is that, do you know UT's budget is larger than that of the city of Houston?
It's staggering. And you got to say, where's all that money going?
And the thing about it is, you're talking about an institution that, just at UT's campus alone, right, in Austin, $4 billion. Now, the city of Houston's budget was $7 billion. But at the end of the day, you're talking, they have 21,000 employees. The city of Houston has how many employees? You know, the city of Houston serves, 3 million residents. That campus serves 60,000. Like, where does this money go? And on top of that, the states provide all of this money to these institutions. We, as the state of Texas, we provide over $30 billion to education, higher education. $30 billion.
That's unbelievable.
And why in the world are we still having to charge residents to go to school if we're giving you all of this money? We're giving you this money, and of course these institutions have, $100 million just to pay a coach to get out.
Can you imagine?
It's like, here's $100 million, leave.
I saw that at LSU where they're going to give the guy, like, I forgot, 50 million just to leave. I thought those regents, which are the trustees that run that school, should all have to resign.
Yeah.
They should all resign.
A&M did it. A&M gave their last coach, I forgot his name.
Yep.
$92 million.
They should all resign. I mean, it's just, it's just that bad, because how could you have done that? I remember when I was chairman of Metro, and everybody knows I was chairman of Metro, there was a person, and I'll try to protect the innocent, who did a lousy job because he was always, in my view, not doing a good job. My view, and I was a chairman. And he had a thing in his contract, and he left, and where did he go? Join a company that we were doing contracts with. So, of course, he was the one decided the contract. And in his contract, his personal contract, he would do some money, and I said, you know what, we're not going to pay you. I said, we're not going to pay you. Take me to court.
Right.
Guess what? He didn't take us to court because he knew.
A little conflict of
That's
interest
exactly
there.
right. So I said, no, I'm not going to. Sometimes it takes bold leadership to say, we're just not going to do that. It doesn't make sense.
Not fair.
I don't care what it said.
That's right.
You haven't delivered. You haven't delivered. But let's come back to something else. So I really appreciate your view about the trade schools. I think it's wonderful that you did that. And then I think it's wonderful you graduated, you started your nonprofit, and then you decided one day, I think I'm going to run for council.
It didn't really happen that way.
There wasn't like a message that
Nope.
said you just need to do it.
No. So
How'd it happen?
I'm running my nonprofit.
Yep.
And I'm thinking nothing but about these children. And I understood. You can't help the children unless you're helping the parents. You can't help the parents unless you're fixing the community by which they live. So it's kind of all interconnected. And I'm 22, 23 years old. This lady comes to my building, and I'll try to be quick about this. Lady comes to my building. She says, I want to come volunteer. And I was like, sure. And she comes over, and she sits there, and she watches me. And I'm like, are you going to help? And she's like, I want to watch. I'm amazed.
Yeah,
And
I'm learning.
like,
Yeah.
okay. And so it happened on that day. It just happened to be me. And so I had about 35, 36 kids in the building, and I had this group cooking. I had that group doing homework. I had this group doing, kind of some, trade and, some enrichment classes. So, and I had leaders in each one, like every group. And so she sat there in amazement, and then she's like, you did such a wonderful job. Bye. And I was like, that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, right? But anyway, she calls back the next day and she says, my name is Sarah Joseph and I work for the Houston Rockets and we want to support your program. And I was like, you were the lady from yesterday? And she was like, yes. And I was like, wow. And she said, you didn't know who I was, but I was just there and you did such an amazing job. So we want to help. And I was like, oh my God. We need new books. We need computers. This is in 95, right? So I'm like, computers are really starting to hit.
Yeah.
I was like, we need this and we need. And she was like, yeah, we're the Rockets. We got a little bit more money than that. I said, we need a new building.
Yeah.
Because we were
Let's go.
in a one-room, shotgun house in Fifth Ward, Frenchtown, and she says, we like that idea. So she took it back, and at that time it was Les Alexander. She took it back. She said, we want to do that. We think that'll be a great legacy for the Rockets as well as you, blah, 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 blah. So they built the building. David Weekley was one of the contributors. Yep. And I had worked for council members. And you know how in this political game, it's all played off of rumor mills. And, you know, like, well, we think Jarvis is going to. Like, I ain't interested in running. That's not me. And so my building was red tagged. And you can't have these kids in the building no more. I was like, this building is brand new. It's like, what are you talking about? Well, we didn't have an occupancy permit. It's like, okay. Lo and behold, back in that time, it's funny because none of the city of Houston's multi-purpose centers had occupancy permits either. Well, so I started doing my homework, and I'm like, they ain't got no occupancy permit. Cost the city $2 million.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right on.
Can you hold that thought? Don't lose your train of thought. We have Anise Parker on the line. Anise Parker, are you there?
Hey, Gilbert. Good morning.
Well, thank you so much for calling, Mayor. And I just want to say, Judge. Oh, not yet, but how are you doing there, Mayor Parker?
I'm good. I've actually just been. I know you graciously asked me to call in, but I've been listening to you talk to Jarvis, and Jarvis and I served together in local government.
Well, you know,
and I heard him mention the Deluxe Theater, and I was out there like 3 weeks ago or so, and it looks phenomenal.
That's fantastic. Well, he was reminiscing about his days serving with you there at the Horseshoe. And we were reminiscent about, you know, when he first was on council and everything. But really, I want to talk about you, if you don't mind, for a quick second, because you've done so much. I really, and I'm going to say some things that I know that you probably prefer not to comment. But when I saw Judge Lena say those things, and she was throwing some stones at you, I couldn't believe it. And you know, I called that reporter and I said, the next time there's an article about that, I want you to call me, Gilbert Garcia, and here's why, blah, blah, blah. And I just said to me, you know, think about it. You've been in public service at the front line for people and citizens and communities all over Houston and Harris County, all over the state, before she was even born. I mean, it's outrageous for her to have said those sorts. I mean, really. And I know you don't want to say it, but I'll say it for you. Before she was born.
True, I do have children who are older than she is, but then you know, I hear from folks on a regular basis that, you know, they're not gonna vote for anybody over 40. It's like, okay, ageism doesn't look any prettier than sexism or racism. So go ahead, dude.
Well, the other thing too, though, Mayor, is. You know, she was talking something about you about, I don't know, she was really knocking on the qualifications. And I said, wait a minute. And I told this reporter this, and I hope she will write another article, right? And I said, I made this line, and hopefully she'll use it if I'm quoted. I said, you know, if you go back to when Lena first ran, you could write her qualifications probably in a paragraph. And if you look at Mayor Parker's, now that she's
write them on a postage stamp.
That's right. and it would take a novel to write about your stuff.
But that's why a lot of us supported the incumbent. It's not because we're not good Democrats, and I have never voted in the Republican primary. I've been a Democratic precinct chair, a sustaining member of the Harris County Democratic Party for a very long time. But you know, I'm not a good Democrat because I didn't support Lena the first time she ran because she wasn't qualified.
Yep.
Now we all gave her an opportunity to get better at it, and she's smart, and she's smart and she's articulate, she's beautiful. She had a great chance to succeed, and I'm sorry, I'm ready to do a better job.
And you know what? And we can't afford it anymore. You know, we just need a sort of a. Thank goodness, a lot of the commissioners, they all function well in their district and so forth, but we just need a operating.
But they don't function as a group.
That's right.
And you know that. I mean, you run a business, and
right.
And as chair of Metro, you brought all the board members together to focus on making a better Metro. She cannot bring the commissioners together to focus on making a better Harris County for everybody.
That's right. The individual commissioners, you know, I believe they do a good job, but when you get them together at that horseshoe, that table, boy, it's just dysfunction. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, when you have your family, and you know, all families can be chaotic. Of course, the Garcias, I mean, my God, it's like at Thanksgiving, everybody's arguing about nothing, and you can't even hear each other. Or Christmas meal, there's all the Garcias, there's 15 of us, and we're just fighting about nothing. But that's what it's like. It's unbelievable. But Mayor, just real quick, how can people get involved in your campaign? I know you're already at work, but I know you're going to hit it hard come the new year.
The primary is the first week of March.
Damn.
So
That is your favorite word today.
I know. I don't even know if I can say that word. Can I say that, Jarvis? I don't know. But
it's your show,
but
brother.
Damn. Keep
Yeah,
going. Yeah.
It's like I mean, we have 2 months, and Jarvis and I are both hitting it hard because we have only 2 months. My campaign is AniseParker.com. There's 2 N's in my first name, ANNISEPARKER.com. And anybody who's interested in finding out more or getting involved can contact me there. And most of what I'm doing as a candidate, I mean, we're doing phone banking, we're doing door knocking. Most of what I'm doing as a candidate is being present in community. This is my 12th campaign. I know how to do that. And the most important thing is showing up and seeing with your own eyes. I did a windshield tour of the North Forest area 2 weeks ago. I go out and find somebody who knows windshield tour. We basically drive around and look at the problems and let me become familiar with this huge county. And that's my number one job, that and raising money, because it is a huge county and it's expensive. But I'm happy to engage with anybody who wants to connect through the campaign. Send me an email, campaign@AniseParker.com.
Wonderful. Well, I am happy to know that I have been and my family big supporters of yours, and we've written some checks to you. We're going to keep writing more because we need you, Mayor. We need you there to really put this county back in order, as they say. And so I really appreciate you calling in. I hope you call in every week between now and Election Day, because we want to give you plenty of airtime so people can know more about you everywhere.
So, I thank you for inviting me. I'm going to be on your show. I'm actually going to be in your studio next Monday. So I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be great. We're going to be all Parker all the time. Thank you, Mayor, for calling in.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Jarvis, we have another one of your colleagues. I just see the name there. Is there Ron Reynolds there? Representative Reynolds, are you there?
Yes, sir. Gilbert, happy holidays, my friend.
How you doing? You got me, Gilbert Garcia, the tip for me, with Mr. Jarvis Johnson. And
Wow,
Jarvis is going to take a big leap, and he's running for CD 29.
I know. He told me. How exciting.
Yeah, we're going to talk all about that here in the second half of the show. But what do you got for Houston and Harris County? What do you got for Jarvis?
Well, first of all, hey, man, I wanted to call and thank you. You have been a beacon of light, a blessing, all that you do to give back and make a difference. So I wanted to say happy holidays. Hope you had a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. To all your listeners that are so dedicated and loyal, that tune in and stay engaged, I want to thank them as well. Looking forward to a prosperous New Year where we have some really exciting elections that are going to be pivotal for our democracy. As you talked about, Representative Johnson is now running for Congress. You have some huge races at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, constable, sheriff, you name it. I mean, so many seats, district attorney, different seats are up all over the country, all over the county, all over the state. And so this is going to be people's chance to weigh in on what direction they want us to go in. We've seen so much erosion when it comes to rights that we have earned because of good trouble that have been eviscerated from the MAGA extremists that are trying to take away and attack our diversity, equity, and inclusion, women's rights, immigrants. And so this is such a pivotal election, Gilbert, and I just wanted to call and thank your listeners for staying tuned in. We need to get out the vote in record numbers. We need everyone that's over the age of 18 to be registered and to, more importantly, to vote. And not just wait until the November elections, the primary elections. You have a pivotal runoff for Congressional District 18 coming up. That early voting starts on January 17th, and the election is January 31st. Then you have the primary that is coming up. So we have so many races coming up, Gilbert, and I look forward to coming back on your show and talking more about it. But right now, I really just wanted to say happy holidays and God bless you.
Well, that is so kind of you. I appreciate you and I appreciate all that you do. And, you know, you brought up a lot of interesting things. And the most important thing when I heard everything you just said is how confusing this whole upcoming election is to replace, of course, you know, the great Sheila, Sylvester Turner, et cetera.
Yes.
I mean, they just made it so hard because not only do they have their term, that they now have a runoff that's going to start in 2.5 weeks, and it comes in late January. Then there's the general election, and they're going to be running in March, and there'll probably be a runoff there for next November. It's just madness. And I'd like to think I'm at least educated a little bit, but I'm confused. You know, how can the people not be confused?
It's all by design. It's intended. It's that way by design, Gilbert. This is no accident. These are the people who want to make it as confusing as possible so that you dilute the vote and you have people that have voter fatigue, voter confusion. And guess what? Then they stay at home. We cannot succumb to that. That is an old original playbook from voter suppression. No longer is it how many bubbles in a bar of soap and poll taxes and literacy tests. It's voter confusion. It's changing election dates and doing all kind of things to make it more difficult to vote through strict voter ID laws, through racial gerrymandering. So, but we as a people, particularly black and brown people that make up the majority, we can't fall for the okie doke. We gotta press through it. We got to get the information. And that's why it's important to have shows like this so that we can educate the voters. And it's important for people like me and Jarvis to go out in the communities and tell people at the basic level, in the barbershops, in the beauty salons, where people aren't really reading the Chronicle. They're not listening to CNN. They're getting their news from TikTok and social media. So we got to take it to where they are, make it plain, but we have to educate people. We cannot assume that people know because a lot of people don't.
Well, Representative, hold on one second. I want to give Jarvis Johnson a window to come in and jump in on some of this, because all this has been crazy.
Well, it is very crazy, and it is by design. But what I always say is I look at it from the other side, that there have been so many attempts to try to hold back this community, but we fight back every single time, and we come back better, stronger, and more united. And I know this is nothing more than another opportunity for us to do that again.
Amen.
Because when there is tragedy or when there's destruction happening, there's always an opportunity to rebuild. And the Republican Party is attacking Harris County every single day. And the governor has said he's going to spend so much money trying to turn this county red that he will do everything that he needs to. And if that means that they cannot win, they cheat. And so they'll start attacking our school system and saying it's horrible. And so and the Democrats are running that. And then they'll say, well, Harris County is in shambles and look at the Democrats running that. And so it's always something new and different when it comes to them because they're trying to badmouth us. But at the end of the day, our community knows the issues and they know the people that are representing them and they see the difference in the BS and they're going to come back out and vote the way they need to. And they just need a voice. And those people that they know are going to do the work for them. And we've been here, we're going to continue to do the work.
Well, let me
but you've got to be present in people's lives, because if you're not, they don't see you, and it's like, oh, well, who are you, and what are you doing, and why should I vote for you? I don't know you.
I'm going to ask you something, and first, Representative Johnson, and then I'm going to see what you have to say on this, Representative Reynolds, which is, you know, again, I try to be informed, but it's hard. But I remember there was all this stuff about, the Harris County elections are fraud and this and that. And then I read there were like almost no cases of fraud. So it's kind of like, where do they even get such any evidence to even take such a position?
There is never any evidence. These are made up problems that they're using as justification to wield their big stick and pull out their weaponry to say, oh, we have to protect, we got to protect the House. And so this is why we're going to go in there and we're going to take over their elections. But there's never any evidence. So you can't just say it. You got to provide it. It's the same thing what they're trying to do when we were a few years ago when they were talking about defunding the police. And if you defund the police, then you can have money pulled back from the state. It's like nobody's defunding the police, ever. Nobody's defunding the police, but they're simply making this up, and it's clickbait and it's red meat for their base so that the base can have something that they can gnaw on. But at the end of the day, none of it is true. None of it is true. And they're just making it up, and they're wanting people just to fall for the okie doke. But people are smarter than that, unfortunately. Their base is not, but we know that there aren't any fraud going on in these elections. We live in the greatest country in the world that everybody continues to say, especially the Republican Party. If you believe that this country is the greatest country in the world, then stop demonizing it. Stop saying how horrible it is because it doesn't fit your narrative. And that's simply what they're doing. And then as Democrats, we're going to have to learn how to fight back and hit them back in the mouth where, so they can feel it. Because my grandmother told me a long time ago, you cannot be rational with irrational people. And sometimes you got to meet them where they understand you best. And so I don't care if your feelings are hurt if I say something bad about you in terms of being the Republican Party. But you're going to have to hear it, and you're going to have to feel the pain and the frustration that my constituents are feeling. And we're not going to let you off the hook with that. And so they're just going to continue to make up things, just the same way Donald Trump is making up his job market numbers, the same way he's making up this tariff. Did you hear him say the other day that the debt has been brought down by 64% because of his tariffs? Now, I just want to put that in context. The debt in the United States is $38 trillion. If you brought down the debt because of your tariffs, then that means you're telling me the tariffs that American citizens are paying, you're telling me that the tariffs have brought in 38 trillion, 64%, about $24 trillion in tariffs.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's just not even
just say it.
rational.
That's what he does. He just says things, and then his base goes for it. It's like, no. It's the same way he's saying about ICE. We've deported, all of the people. Barack Obama deported 4 million people and didn't make this much fuss. Joe Biden deported 3 million people and didn't make this much fuss. Donald Trump has a $180 billion ICE budget, and he's only deported 400,000 people.
Well, all I can say, as a Latino, and of course, my family, my in-laws live on the border. We're still waiting for that wall to be paid for by Mexico.
Right.
And that was like, what was that, 10 years ago?
2016.
Representative Reynolds, what do you got? You got the last word here on this issue.
Well, my esteemed colleague was spot on, and I would say, only thing I would add is that, Donald Trump, when his mouth is moving, he's typically lying, and this voter fraud was all based on a big lie that was promulgated by him because he wanted to subvert the election, and many people unfortunately lost their lives through the insurrection. It was all built on a lie, and you had people's lives that were ruined. You had police officers that would never be the same again. And we as American citizens need to wake up and start speaking truth to power and not being afraid of the big bully. I applaud the Senate Democrats in Indiana that refused to bow down like Texans and Abbott did to the voter suppression, and they rejected the racial gerrymandered maps in Indiana. And Trump had his people, his goons, threaten their children and their lives and this and that. So it is time for the American people to say, not on our watch will we continue to allow this bully, wannabe dictator king to take us back to dark days of this country where blacks and browns were treated as second-class citizens. No longer will we allow them to continue with this lies and rhetoric to rev up their MAGA base and use us as political pawns. And so, Gilbert, it's time to fight back. And the way we don't do that with arrows, we do that with voting. And we do that with getting out the vote and educating people on why elections matter. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I'm looking forward to continuing to engage with you and your listeners in 2026.
Representative, thank you for calling in. That's Representative Ron Reynolds. Again, just a great public servant. We have another caller, though, and then we'll come back to some of the things I want to go into in the last 10 minutes here. Boy, time is flying already. I want to go into the election coming up. Right. Is there Tiffany Johnson there?
Yes.
Tiffany, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from me with Representative Jarvis Johnson. What do you got for us?
So I have a question. I'm curious, how do you plan to involve the community once the new districts are set?
Representative, what do you think? Tell us about the new lines and how you're going to get it all together.
Well, this is wonderful, and at the end of the day, we got to continue the work that we've already done. As with this new 29 district, I have represented over 90% of this district.
No kidding.
Over 90%. And so, as a city council member, as a state representative, as a business owner, and then as my nonprofit, so we know the community's issues. We know where the people are. The people know me. So at the end of the day, we'll continue to do the work we do. Always having town hall meetings, making sure that we continue some of the programs that I've put in place as a city council member. Emerging Leaders is one of the programs that I had in place to make sure that people who wanted to be engaged in politics can be a part of it and feel like they have a voice. They can learn while on the job, being a part of the political process, because I promise you, this is my guarantee to you, I'm 53 years old. 63 won't see me in office. Mm-hmm. I believe that it is opportunities like these that you pass the baton. Mm-hmm. You get an opportunity, you be in office, you build the foundation, but you have a succession plan and you have somebody coming behind you. So I want to make sure that I can be the example and I show people. I'm not going to be, I can run and win again, I'm sure, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we have the young coming up behind, because I've learned a long time ago, it says that the elders are for counsel, the young are for war. And right now we're at war, and we need to have people with a strong voice, a strong will, a strong back that knows how to fight. And then, of course, we'll continue to do the city, things that I have put in place with student councils, youth councils, to make sure that they're part of it, because we don't participate, our children don't participate in civic process anymore. And then again, we'll continue to have our town hall meetings. My staff will be at civic club meetings, so we'll want to be inclusive so that everybody feels a part of the process. And we'll challenge people to challenge me, because at the end of the day, I'm not omnipresent, mm-hmm. but I will be everywhere that we certainly can. And I think it's indicative of the voting that comes out, because my district has always had one of the highest voting turnouts out of state reps in Harris County, because I continue to work my district. I continue to work not only in March, but even through the finish line coming in November, because I think it's important that we push people to those polls, because if we're not pushing people to the polls, because our big race was really in the March primary. But then we spent a lot of energy, money, and then from there, we forget about November, and that's why we don't win statewide races. And so I make sure that we continue to stay actively and engaged in our communities.
Well, I tell you what, I think, I'm ready. I am ready. Let's see, frankly, talk about this. I have to read that carefully. There's a whole lot there, but we appreciate it. The American people deserve answers on how their taxpayer money is being used and arrest when abuse is found.
Minnesota?
In Minnesota. Well, first of all, we appreciate you from Minnesota calling in. Let's see here. I'm going to let Jarvis Johnson talk a little bit. I'm going to just rephrase the question and we're just reading some of the things that are being emailed in here. Richard Johnson, great show, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of great things being said here. Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the solution for what's happening with the whole thing with ICE and everything else? I mean, is the mayor working close with them, not close enough? I mean, just what's your feeling about that whole thing?
I want to be very clear. ICE never stopped working. And what we're seeing is a new kind of ICE. As I said before, Barack Obama deported 4 million people mm-hmm. from this that were here illegal, and it wasn't. He didn't send masked people in unmarked cars and just rousting people simply based on the color of their skin. He didn't do that. President Biden didn't do that. But this ICE thing has become a cultural war, where you have the Supreme Court literally gave police officers, ICE agents, the opportunity of simply pulling somebody over based on their skin color. how discriminatory. You can't be more discriminatory than that. You can't simply look at me and say I'm a danger because my skin color, because if that's the case, then every little white kid that I see, you should pull over, because it is white kids walking into these schools that are shooting up these schools. It is white kids going into these churches and synagogues. It is white kids that are then going into these universities. So we should, if we want to be discriminatory and worry about public safety, then should we do that? No, we shouldn't. But we do have an understanding, an idea who are doing the things. And then when they say everybody coming across here are criminals, come on, man. Look, I believe everybody who comes into this country needs to come into this country legally and through a process. But we're not going to demonize people. We're not going to, we're not going to denigrate people, and we're not going to make them feel less than human as they are. And that's the thing that I think needs to stop. Because right now, Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing this for show. He's only deported 400,000 people. It's on record. 400,000, but you have a $180 billion budget, when Barack Obama only had $7 billion and Joe Biden only had $14 billion. How would you get $180 billion and yet you still haven't deported?
It comes back to, where's all that money being spent?
Exactly.
I mean, inquiring minds like mine just want to know, where's that money being spent? And for you out there in Minnesota, hopefully we're addressing your answer a little bit, but there's no doubt, I love your thing called Frankly Talking. We already have more callers. I want to try to get some of these in. There were 2 or 3 names I saw.
But I want to tell you before, because I know we got a short time.
No.
But I do want to be clear about why I decided to run for the 29th congressional district.
Let's do it.
You have to look at this district is a new district. When they redistrict, and believe me, I was the first on the front lines fighting to say that all of the representatives needed to break quorum and leave, because the Republicans were trying to cheat and steal to grab more seats for themselves. And so I stood on the front line, and I made for sure that my voice was heard. When those lines, when the federal court came back and said, nope, we got to go back to 2021, I, like all my colleagues, celebrated. Absolutely. Good, because we don't allow the people to choose who their leaders are versus Republicans trying to pick who they want their constituents to be.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Supreme Court came back and then said, no, you got to use the new maps. And so I said at that time it was time that I did run, because when I looked at the numbers, the district has changed by over 70%.
No, you mean from where it was?
From the old 29
to now.
To the new 29.
No kidding, that much?
The district now is everything north of 610 between 59 and 290, if you kind of can see that. You got 59, you got 45, then you got 290. It's everything north of 610. Those are districts that I have represented. While this district used to be close to 80% Latino, now this district has gone down with a CVAP of only 43%
no kidding.
Latino. And then from there you have a black representation that of the likely voters that will be voting in March, 57% of those voters are going to come from the African American community. And when you think about the African American community, you look at it as the foundation of the Democratic Party. And oftentimes the black community don't see a representative that they understand and can see and know that I trust that this person is going to do the work for me. And that's oftentimes when people just say, well, I ain't going to vote because I don't know the person that is there. This gives us a unique opportunity to do some of the things that need to be done. And I have often said that it is important that we have the Black-Brown coalition, but it has to be a real coalition, not one that's just based on who gets the bigger hand or who gets the upper hand. No, it has to be who can give, in unison. And I have reached out to the current congressperson, and unfortunately no calls have been returned, but I wanted to say, how can we work together? Because this ain't about me, it's not about her, it's truly about the people. We need to have a plan that our people understand what they're working towards. Everybody continues to say, come vote for me. If you vote for me, I'm going to do all these amazing things for you. At the end of the day, it's truly about how do we create a plan, because all politics are local. I'm going to fight for, human rights, women's reproductive rights, immigration, voting. Those are all national issues that, as a good Democrat, we're all going to fight for. But all politics are local. I want to make sure that I'm bringing the resources back to my district to ensure that the education system is up to par, to make sure that infrastructure is significant and sufficient. I want to make sure that our businesses are being given every opportunity to succeed in this crazy, changing economy that we're dealing with. And I want to make sure that our housing market is solid, that we're making sure that people can live. They don't have to move out to move up. They can simply live in the same community that grew them up, that they can still stay in and have a great community that they can be proud of.
Well, we're on a roll. I know we had some callers. Unfortunately, I think there was an Isidro on there. I think there was a Linda. We're not going to be able to get to you because I want to give the representative the last word. He's going to have 2 minutes. He's going to look right in that camera, and this is going to be kind of a softball. And I realize we didn't talk enough about this election. I want to have you back. So I'm going to have you back somewhere around early February or something, because I want to have you back. I want to talk exclusively about the election, and don't get me started on her, the incumbent, because I got a lot of things to say myself.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't surprise me she didn't call you back. You've got 2 minutes to tell us what you're going to do and why should people vote for you.
I'm Jarvis Johnson. You can go to jarvisjohnsonforus.com to check out my platform. But there are 4 things that I think are important. Number 1, we got to have a plan to bring infrastructure, education, business, and housing together. We have to make sure that our community leaders are sitting at the table, and we've devised a plan so that everybody's voice is heard so that we can get the job done. Our community needs to be a community of choice. Our community needs to be a community that we're all proud of. And so check me out, jarvisjohnsonforus.com. Hear my platform, hear the plan, understand what we're trying to do, and I promise you, you're going to be pleased and you're going to be excited. Gilbert, I certainly want to thank you, and I'm looking forward to coming back. Election is beginning early voting February 17th, and election day is March 3rd. JarvisJohnsonForUs.com, Jarvis Johnson for CD29.
There you go, Houston, Harris County. This is Gilbert Garcia saying, we'll see you next time, and don't forget what my mom said. If you don't vote, don't complain. All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, Talk, Inspiration, and Prayer. We're going to now be on television. We will air every Saturday on Comcast 17, AT&T Channel 99, Phonoscope Channel 96, Suddenlink 99, and also HMSTV.org. Every new episode every Saturday at 7 p.m. And follow me on social media. See you then.